Back now this Monday morning with the first stop on Queen Elizabeth's final journey home. King Charles III, Queen Consort Camilla, they have arrived in Edinburgh, Scotland. That happened earlier today.
The Queen's casket will lie in rest at Scotland's historic St. Giles Cathedral for 24 hours. And Savannah is live for us again outside of Buckingham Palace. Savannah, fill us in on what's happening right now.
Yes, so we are waiting to see a glimpse of the royal family and King Charles III. The scene is in Edinburgh, Scotland, as you mentioned, at Holyroodhouse, which is the official residence of the Queen in Scotland. Her casket, her coffin traveled there, a 6-hour journey from Balmoral yesterday, and is inside the throne room of that castle. And in a few moments, we will see King Charles III and other senior members of the royal family go into that room, receive the casket, and then there will be a procession by hearse down what's called the Royal Mile in Edinburgh. And I want to turn to NBC's Tom Yamas, who is in Edinburgh for us to fill in what we can expect in the next few minutes, Tom.
Hey, Savannah, good morning to you. What our viewers are seeing on their screens right now, those live pictures from inside Holyroodhouse, are just over my shoulder right here. We have been watching all morning, waiting for the moment that the world is going to see, essentially the Queen's coffin draped in the standard of Scotland, the royal standard of Scotland, enter that hearse. And I've made it a point to sort of describe that vehicle. It's a Mercedes-Benz with a glass roof, and it's that way so people across Scotland could see the Queen's coffin as it passed through all those different towns and cities you were mentioning just yesterday. We had a chance to be on the Royal Mile yesterday as the hearse came through carrying the coffin. It was quite a moment. You know, here in Edinburgh, people were quiet at first, but then they started to clap. They were happy, and young and old were along the Royal Mile. We expect similar scenes here, but this time with, as you mentioned, King Charles III. He will be here walking with his brothers and sisters behind the hearse. And as I've described to you, Savannah, all morning, people are saying this is going to be much more intimate than what we're going to see in the days ahead, because the Royal Mile is very narrow. It's a medieval street, cobblestone, and the public is going to be so close to the hearse, so close to the royals, they could almost reach out and touch them. So we're expecting something very private, something very special, and something very powerful. Of course, the guards, the bodyguards of the king, known as the Royal Company of Archers, are going to be protecting the Queen as she goes to St. Giles Cathedral and the royal family. Savannah?
And I think we're starting to see that procession now, Tom, outside of Holyrood, the palace where the Queen has her official residence in Scotland. We hear the bagpipes, those telltale bagpipes that we're told the Queen loved to hear when she visited Scotland. She loved to wake up and hear them. King Charles III is there, Queen Consort Camilla, as well as the Queen's children, grandchildren. It's believed we'll see a glimpse of all of them today. The scene this afternoon in one of the countries of the United Kingdom, Scotland, the Queen's beloved Scotland, the place where she passed at Balmoral, the country estate she adored, her body passing by a hearse, 6 hours through the Scottish countryside to the official palace, Holyroodhouse, and now it will make another journey along the Royal Mile, a historic road between the Queen's official palace in Scotland and St. Giles Cathedral, where various national leaders, including Prime Minister Liz Truss, are assembled for a prayer service. And we are about to witness this stunning moment where the hearse is traveling slowly and members of the royal family, we're told, will, some of them, be walking on foot behind, others in the motorcade, making this solemn procession. I'm going to turn to Wilfred Frost as we watch these, and we've been talking all morning about how there's a certain poetry and a certain beauty to the fact that these first final steps of the Queen's long goodbye are in her beloved Scotland.
Oh, absolutely. And it really is, by the way, unprecedented to have this scale of official coffin moving through a city with the King himself following behind it outside of England. Usually has only ever happened in England before.
Well, we will continue to keep our eyes on these pictures, and we'll be back in just a moment. Good morning and good afternoon from the United Kingdom, where we are back with live coverage of Scotland's final goodbye to Queen Elizabeth II. Her casket now slowly making its way through the streets of Edinburgh en route to a service at Scotland's St. Giles Cathedral. This is a path known as the Royal Mile, a storied path and an opportunity for members of the Scottish public to pay their respects to the Queen as the hearse passes by. And if you can see in the images there on your screen, the Queen's 4 children are walking in procession behind. Wilfred Frost is with me, and what a sight to see all 4 of them together and paying this honor to their mother of accompanying her coffin on this march to St. Giles Cathedral.
Fabulous to see, and they're going to stand vigil, the 4 of them as well, around the coffin once it lays in state for a period of time, which again is another very profound interlink between the family aspect of this, 4 children mourning the loss of their mother, as well as the very serious procedural aspects of 4 senior royals bidding farewell to a monarch.
If you're noticing the beautiful flowers atop the Queen's coffin, they come from her beloved Balmoral estate, including her favorite flowers, the sweet peas. So someone lovingly placed those atop her coffin, and when this procession is received at St. Giles Cathedral, the crown of Scotland will be placed.
Yep.
We've been talking, Wilfred, all morning about the significance of Scotland. It's an accident of history and happenstance that it so happened she passed while at Balmoral. But there is a significance here. It goes deeper than just the love the Scottish people have for the Queen and vice versa, but also in terms of the monarchy and the strength of the monarchy.
Absolutely, and as you said, the Scots crown will sit atop her coffin once it lays in state overnight in St. Giles Cathedral. That is totally unprecedented, as is the formality of this procession right now happening outside of England. And that is an example, as you say, it's a matter of fate that she died in Scotland, but once it has, they're really throwing everything at it to make it as formal as possible, to give as big a send-off to the Queen in a place she loved, but also the Scottish people as much of a send-off to witness. And I think it's good for Scotland, it's good for Her Majesty, and it's good for the Union.
I want to bring Keir Simmons, our senior international correspondent, into our conversation as we watch this beautiful final journey. And we're now seeing members of the public line the streets, Keir. And as it has been in London, it is in Edinburgh, where there are throngs, thousands there to see, but they are so quiet. It's just not what you would expect from a crowd, and yet it's a moment of honoring their Queen one final time.
Yes, a last chance to show their respects to the Queen and also to her children, walking there quietly behind her coffin, Charles and Andrew and Edward. And Savannah, I think of the Speaker of the House of Commons words. just a few hours ago here in London, deep as our grief is, we know your grief is deeper. Each one of those children putting on this public face while dealing with that private grief. And for them, this is what duty is. And she is leading them again in that understanding of duty and of service. And you know, Savannah, you think about those very, very young princes, William and Harry, walking behind Princess Diana's coffin 25 years ago. Now, of course, the Queen's children are a different age, but at the same time, the description that they had, and they were young, of how difficult it was, it gives you pause for thought, doesn't it, about what it takes to be a member of the royal family. We've seen today the constitutional aspects, with the King going to Westminster to meet with leading lawmakers. And now here we see the ceremonial side. And as we watch this ceremonial side, we think of also the personal and the deep, deep emotion that no matter how strong you are, and the Queen was so incredibly strong, and she taught her children to be strong. King Charles talks about that schooling, the school that he went to, how tough it was, because his father, Philip, trying to toughen him up. But inevitably, doing something like this for anyone is a personal challenge.
And now we're starting to see these images of the people who've lined the streets, and as has been described to us, this royal mile, this historic mile between the Queen's Castle in Scotland and St. Giles Cathedral, at some points barely as narrow as a sidewalk, and so it affords a close look, and you see those people, throngs packed shoulder to shoulder, there to say one final goodbye to their Queen. Our coverage continues in a moment. We'll be back with more of Today right after this. Welcome back. Coming up at 10 a.m. on the East Coast, almost 3 o'clock in the afternoon here in the United Kingdom, and you are watching an extraordinary moment as Queen Elizabeth's casket is making a slow march from the Queen's formal estate in Scotland to St. Giles Cathedral, where a prayer vigil will be held. And if you can see behind the hearse, her 4 children in solemn procession, and the people of Scotland out en masse to pay respects to their Queen. The royal family is gathered there. Grandchildren, Harry, William, other grandchildren expected to attend this service as well. Tom Yamas is there in Edinburgh for us, and it's a slow procession, but really affords these people who have come out to show their love for the Queen their moment to have a thank you and a silent prayer.
That is so true, Savannah. And what stands out to me watching these live pictures right now here in Edinburgh is that there are double the amount of people that we saw yesterday when the hearse carrying the Queen's coffin first came into this capital of Scotland. I'm actually surprised that this many more people even fit there, because you can see people are lined up all the way up on staircases, up on roofs in some cases. You can't even see the ground from where the people are allowed to stand. For our folks watching at home, the guards right next to the car, those are the Royal Regiment of Scotland. The people right next to them are the Royal Company of Archers. And believe it or not, Savannah, they are a real archery club. You don't want to be on the other end of their arrows.
No, we'll continue to watch this unfold. Packed shoulder to shoulder, the people of Scotland paying respects to their Queen. We will continue our coverage in just a moment. We'll be back after these messages.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Find your favorite recipes, celebrity interviews, uplifting stories, shop our favorite deals, and so much more with the Today app. Download it now.